Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new edition of Africa Today, where we get you the latest news and events taking place on the African scene. And we will start off with our major top stories and reports. African leaders concerned with climate change held a virtual meeting on Tuesday. The meeting discussed Africa's efforts to counter climate change. During the meeting, Cairo praised strategies and plans implemented by African states to face the phenomena, while at the same time counter repercussions of COVID-19. More details in this report.
Meeting of African leaders over climate change was held on Tuesday. Speaking at the meeting, the Egyptian side said the gathering comes at a critical time on the global stage and for Africa in particular, as the continent gears for the 26th round of the UN Climate Change Agreement meeting. The meeting is to take place in Glasgow, Scotland next November. Madbouli said the report presented by the African negotiators head over climate change clearly shows that despite challenges posed by the coronavirus in Africa, the continent did not draw back on international commitments over climate change. He said the continent was also able to swiftly act and face the repercussions and put plans and strategies to counter climate change at the same time. He said the green motivation is but one phenomenon of the effort put to deal with the situation more efficiently.
Welcome back, dear viewers, and talking about Egyptian-African relations and Egyptian expats in the African continent, we are delighted to be joined over the phone by Dr. Salah Abdallah, our political analyst. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, welcome.
Dr. Abdallah, how would you describe the size of Egyptian expats in Africa and in comparison to expats in other continents in specific?
Well, of course, Africa is a mother continent for Egypt. So the relation and the spread of Egypt in Africa must be more than any other continent. Of course, Egypt has a very good relation with all the countries in the world. But in the last 7 years at least, we are concentrating more in Africa than before. So we have spread our relations in most of the African continent, and we have now good ties with a great number of African countries, especially in the economic side and in the health program and in many aspects like agriculture and so on. Egypt is putting in mind that Africa is the natural extent to Egypt, and our River Nile is coming from Africa. Our culture, of course, is African Egyptian. So that's why Africa is very important to us, even in the security side of view, you know, not only in the economy, but also in the security, because many of the dangerous winds, as they say, come from the African countries and from the spread of some of the terrorist groups. So that's why the relation now between Egypt and the African countries is spreading more and more and is progressing, and it has a great success in most of the continent countries.
Right. Well, how effective are Egyptian expats, in your opinion, or Egyptian communities in the African continent in drawing closer ties with the different African countries?
Well, if we look to country by one country, we will find a great extent in that. Let us say Sudan now, we have a very tight relations, and also in the, not only in the security matter or in the army training, but in the agriculture and in many projects. And if we look to the meeting in Paris where President Sisi went to help Sudan in the question of the economy, you will find how much Egypt is caring about Sudan. The same thing in South Sudan. There is many now projects or joint projects between South Sudan and Egypt. If we look to the other countries like Uganda, like the last visit of President Sisi to Djibouti and to Kenya and so on, you will find that we are increasing our spread, we are increasing our ties. Of course, many Egyptians now are working in Africa, either as businessmen or as technicians. Many doctors now are spreading on all the continent. Nearly in all the African countries, you will find doctors, you will find engineers, you will find teachers, you will find all kinds of skills in Africa. So we are succeeding in that. We are succeeding, and we are going very well in that direction.
Sir, how do you see the effectiveness of the initiative by the Ministry of Immigration dubbed Egypt's Voice in Africa?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. How do you see the effectiveness of the initiative by the Ministry of Immigration, which is titled Egypt's Voice in Africa?
Well, the Ministry of Immigration, of course, is doing a good job. And they are connecting the relation between the Egyptian groups in these African countries and the motherland, Egypt. Of course, that's good. And they are following the activity of the Egyptian groups in the African countries. But in my opinion, Africa is more complicated than other continents. You know, you can say that Ministry of Immigration can have a very active role in Asia or in Europe. But in Africa, you need not only the Ministry of Immigration, you need the Ministry of External Affairs, you need the Ministry of Defense, you need the security departments, you need many activities. So what the Ministry of Immigration is doing is good, but in Africa especially, you need more than that.
Egypt's Ministry of Immigration and Egyptian expats held dialogue sessions on Monday with a number of Egyptian expats in African countries as part of the initiative. In your opinion, what issues must have had the priority during the discussions?
Well, of course, the condition of the Egyptian groups in this country, from the question of their own, how they live, their own rights in this country, the financial rights in this country. At the same time, the connection between the Egyptian groups and the ministry is very important, because it gives the ministry all the details and all the new changes which happen in these societies. Of course, more Egyptians working in the African countries is very important, because they connect the economy of these countries with the economy in Egypt. So this meeting is important, and I think more meetings can happen in other groups in Africa, because, you know, Africa is very big continent, and you can't collect all the groups in one time. So you can have meetings with the Egyptians in East Africa, let us say, in West Africa, in South Africa, because each project or each area have its own environment, have its own problems, have its own, you know, customs. So you need to have more meeting with them. But anyhow, this is a very great effort, and more effort is needed in that direction.
Right. Well, Minister of Immigration, Dr. Nabila Makram, said the Egypt's Voice in Africa initiative is part of efforts to restore the pioneering role in the continent. How do you assess Egypt's role in the African continent, sir?
Well, Egypt is one of the countries now where the African is thinking about in any, events or in any new suggestions or in any problems. So Egypt now is on the map. Is not in a corner. Is in the map and in the middle of the map. And this is, of course, a great success. And the President Sisi is doing a great effort with the African leaders. And his activity, of course, has been reflected on the Egyptians in these countries, and on the activities of these countries. And, of course, increasing the political relation will reflect itself on increasing the economic relation, increasing and especially in the side of agriculture, and the side of industry, and the joint project, in the meat project, and in the agriculture industry. And this is very important in Africa and is needed. So I think Egypt now is having I will not say number one, but I can say one of the 5 countries which is important in Africa nowadays. And this is not an easy, because the other 4 countries, which is Britain and France and America and China, is a very big country. It is not an easy country.
Yes.
So when we are comparing Egypt with them, this means that we are doing a great success and we are going forward.
Right. Well, sir, Dr. Makram also plans to hold a weekly meeting in the Egyptian, with actually the Egyptian expats in Africa to exchange views. What do you think are the most important subject of priority that needs swift action by Egyptian communities on Africa?
Well, number one is to follow the Egyptians which have projects there by giving them the the knowledge about the countries they are going to have any project or any joint project there. Number two, the ministry, when they are following the Egyptians, this reflects itself on the authority of this country, that the country is respecting their own people. That's why the way of the treating the Egyptians in this country will be much better, because when any country feels that the citizens are ignored from their own countries, they also ignore in the country they are living. So when the Ministry of External Affairs or of Immigration, will follow the Egyptians, this is very important to them. Certainly that the Egyptian can give the ministry the information about the economy and the projects and what they are doing, and this will help the ministry in having a map to what the Egyptian personnel are doing in this country.
Right.
It's very important to both the Egyptian there and to the ministry here.
Right. Well, I would like to thank you very much, Dr. Salah Abdallah, our political analyst. Many thanks for your insight. And moving on to our reports, the Immigration Ministry is holding sessions to enhance an initiative dubbed Egypt's Voice in Africa. This comes as part of the ministry's efforts to strengthen Cairo's pioneering role in the continent. More details.
Egypt's Ministry of Immigration and Egyptian expatriates held dialogue sessions on Monday with a number of Egyptian expats in African countries. Nabila Makram said this comes as part of the ministry's efforts to enhance the Egypt's Voice in Africa initiative that forms part of Egypt's efforts to restore its pioneering role in the continent. She said the initiative aims at benefiting from the soft powers of Egyptian communities across Africa, in parallel with the existing Egyptian diplomatic efforts. Makram also plans to hold a weekly meeting with Egyptian expats in Africa to exchange views. She said the initiative aims to support the political leadership's directions in consolidating relations with African countries.
Welcome back. The third coronavirus wave is sweeping across Africa as COVID-19 vaccine imports dry up. The WHO says the Black Continent urgently needs more jabs as 8 countries report rise of 30% in cases this week. More details.
African countries face a last-ditch battle against a third wave of COVID infections as the supply of vaccines to the continent grinds to a halt. The statement was made by top UN health officials. Dr. Matshidiso Moeti, the World Health Organization's regional director for Africa, said, "The threat of a third wave in Africa is real and rising. Our priority is clear. It's crucial that we swiftly get vaccines into the arms of Africans at high risk of falling seriously ill and dying of COVID-19. The WHO said the pandemic was now trending upwards in 14 countries, and in the past week alone, 8 countries had witnessed an abrupt rise of over 30% in cases. However, vaccine shipments to African nations have ground to a near halt. Moiti said, while many countries outside Africa have now vaccinated their high-priority groups and are able to even consider vaccinating their children, African countries are unable to even follow up with second doses for high-risk groups. Only 50 million doses have been received in Africa, of which 31 million doses had been administered in 50 countries with a combined population of more than 1 billion. There are widespread fears among senior health officials that the continent could suffer similar or worse devastation to that seen in India, which has a more robust health system than many African countries.
And dear viewers, that brings us to the end of this edition of Africa Today. Many thanks for watching and stay tuned for more coming up here on Nile TV International.